So, questions, comments, concerns. You have access to the chat if you pre-registered and you have a Microsoft account. Those who signed in with your name don't have access to the chat.
All right, fantastic. So we had a question or two questions from Maria, and these questions are, the first was, where can we find a list of recommended supplies and tools for our CERT backpacks?
There's a lot of different places. CERT-LA.com is the LA City official CERT website that has a list of resources you can follow.
Could you say that again? I'll type it in the chat.
The CERT-LA, CERT-LA.com website has a list of good resources that are out there, but there's resources all over the place. Red Cross, FEMA. There's more places that have resource lists than probably you can buy resources from.
All right, fantastic. The next question was, where can people obtain the CERT forms that you mentioned in the training?
They're available off the FEMA website. CERT-LA.com also has them. And there's two different versions. There's an older version and a newer version. I actually like some of the older ones better, but you should learn them both.
The next question was, do you have particular brands or models of FRS radios that are officially recommended?
No. What I recommend is go to Amazon.com and read reviews. There's a few good reviewers out there who will literally drive out away from each other and test the distances and interference and compare them to other radios. But there's too many different radios out there. Motorola, Midland, Cobra. They all have different varieties and price points, capabilities. I even saw one yesterday that can hook up to your cell phone and now act as a GPS and send your coordinates over FRS. I'm not sure how that's done legally, considering that you're not supposed to transmit data over FRS, but cool. I just recommend read the reviews. And don't buy the cheap.
Fantastic. I mean,
let's table this because this is a complicated subject.
Yes.
The radios you can buy online for family radio service need to be licensed, certified by the FCC for the particular band that you're trying to transmit on. If you buy a Baofeng radio, it's a ham radio. You're not legally allowed to transmit on FRS frequencies. So I don't recommend you do something like that. If you search for Motorola, Midland, Cobra, FRS, you'll see a list of them, and those are part certified. As CERT members, we should be doing everything legally. So I don't want to recommend that you do something like buy a cheap ham radio and program it illegally. But we'll talk about that when we do training on radios.
Yeah, Patrick, in the previous training about the staging, there was the inclusion of the public gathering. I know it was on this presentation, but the previous presentation elaborated that to be like a family reunification center.
Yes.
Should we continue to follow that directive in that presentation, that we still would like to do that? We're having our drill coming up next month, and we made some planning for our Grayburn, Edge Hill, Norton, second Saturday of September, and I've included that as one of our practicals to take on.
Yeah, the reason why I distinguish the public gathering area, and this is where a lot of times people think the CERT staging area should be public and visible. If you do that, people will come and ask questions, and they will get in the way. They will ask questions like, when is the power coming back? Why isn't the fire department responding? Why is 911 down? Do you have power for my cell phone? Can I charge it off your generator? They will get in your way and they will impede your response. So it's better to have the CERT staging area be out of the way, behind a building, being off on the side of a parking lot or something that's just not visible off the main street. but you need that public gathering area because people will want to go somewhere to group up, to get solace in their loss, to commiserate with each other about the fact that the earth just started shaking randomly. They didn't ever know what to do about this. And being able to send somebody somewhere is going to give them something to do. So if you can identify a place that makes sense, public park, parking lot in front of a big store or something, and say, this is the designated family reunification area, public gathering area. Let the fire department know, let the city council know, let the neighborhood council know that this is where people should go. And it makes sense because people are already going to go there and gather there anyway. Then you have something to do if you encounter them. They encounter your team saying, help us, my power's out, I have questions. And they say, okay, go to the park down the street and you'll see a bunch of people there. Go there. We're going to send a couple CERT people there to help you out. And that gives them something to do and gets them out of your way.
Okay, thank you.
Terry has her hand up here.
Yes, Terry, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My question would be regarding the incident command name versus the staging manager name. When did that change within CERT?
The new curriculum that was released this year removes incident command from the vernacular.
Okay, all right, perfect. Where can I find that? Do you know?
I think it's up on FEMA's website.
Okay.
The problem I have with that is that they refer to everything as a team leader. So you have a bunch of CERT team leaders, but the positions should be a little more granular than that, I think, because it's confusing. Okay, talk to this team leader, what are their roles? So that's why I like the idea of calling the staging manager a staging manager and being that as the core level. And then your teams are teams being deployed by that staging area. And those are team leaders.
Okay, because that sure does make a difference in what I'm actually going through right now with our divisions, our 2 divisions. And so I want to go ahead and implement that as soon as possible. Thank you.
Patrick, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
This is Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And I couldn't write for the chat. Anyway, I have a couple of questions. When DAT is sent out and they encounter a hazard, my first question, say like a down power line or a tree falling on a house, do they call back and request a response team out, or do they manage that incident themselves? Meaning, do they rope it off, or is that left for the response team? If there is gas leaking, do they call back for the response team to do that? That's my first question.
You're going to call the staging area and the staging area is going to work with you to decide what the next steps are.
Okay. My second question is, with the DAT, if there is an injury and they call for, you're saying that a DAT will triage, but if there is an immediate injury and they call back to the staging area to report they've triaged a victim with a serious injury, do they wait for the response team to come, or do they stabilize that victim and then they move on? Because you're saying that they have to keep moving. What do they do?
Again, that's going to be determined between the team leader and the staging area. If there's a team that's close by and can deal with it, it depends on how stable the person is. There's a lot of factors. If there's no medical response team built and ready to go, that person might not make it.
Okay.
Especially if there's nothing that can be done.
So basically, all the DAT will do, their assignment, their objective, their goals, is to assess the area and report back to the staging area what's happening. If they encounter injuries or hazards, they radio it back in and they ask for a response team. But they can triage, is what you're saying, but they don't treat.
Correct. Triage and stabilize.
Triage
And then move on.
Okay, one more question. So so you're saying that the staging manager, and I might have gotten it wrong, how can the staging manager know what is going on if you're saying that they're not supposed to be on the radio? I mean, maybe I wrote it down wrong, but you're saying that the staging manager has to be aware of everything that's going on. And how can they be aware if they're not on the radio? They don't have to communicate on the radio, but wouldn't they be listening to everything that's going on?
So initially, the staging manager is going to be on the radio. They're going to be doing everything. They're going to be tracking incidents as they come in. They're going to be tracking their teams as they're out there. But as soon as they can, they're going to assign a radio operator and scribe to take over that position.
Okay,
and once scribe is going to walk over and say, these are the incidents that just got reported in, and hopefully there's a big map and can be put on the map.
Okay, correct. So once they have, so the staging manager is writing and on radio until they can get radio communications and a scribe. Once they have that, the staging manager goes off of radio, and they're depending on the scribe or the radio communications to let them know what's going on, is what you're saying, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, okay. Okay, one more question. So, I'm sorry, Patrick, I was trying to get in, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, so when teams are assigned at the staging area, so with DAT, and you have 3, the staging area doesn't necessarily say who the scribe is, or do they assign, this one is the scribe, this one will be on radio, and then you'll have the third person? Or when they get out there, the person says, oh, I don't feel comfortable on the radio, and then they switch over, but they tell the staging area what has happened, that the switch has taken place?
It can be done either way. If you have 3 people and say, okay, we're all trained up with the same level of training, we understand the things, you're the team leader, since you're the next one here, here's your 2 other people, here's a radio, here's a clipboard, this is your mission. You figure out who's going to be the scribe, who's going to be the radio operator, and even who's going to be the team leader. You don't want to say you have to be the team leader, you have to be the scribe, you have to be the radio operator, and assign the wrong people to those roles.
Okay. Okay. This is my last question.
All right, then thank you everybody for coming. We're going to be doing this monthly. The goal is to push forward and keep doing better training, more focused on things like team organization, team leadership, medical triage, medical treatment skills. Some of that will be difficult to do during online presentation, but and then radio communication is something else that we're working on. Somebody's talking that's unmuted, but so we'll be posting these online. And before I forget, can we get a round of applause for Daryl and what a great job he's doing as moderator?
Guys, I don't need to.
So, thank you, Daryl.
Bravo, bravo.
All right. If you have any questions, additional questions, you can reach me offline and ask your questions over now.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you,
You too.
Patrick.
Take
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you all.